Realms of Wondrous Gifts, Psychic, Mediumistic, and Miraculous Powers in the Great Mystical and Wisdom Traditions. By Santoshan, Stephen Wollaston, with conversations with Glyn Edwards. Appendix 1. Conversation with Glyn Edwards on the Powers. Santoshan. On the one hand, some people might think being in touch with spirit people a bit strange. On the other hand, these same people might consider being in touch with divinity as more of a natural experience. What would you say to such people? Glyn Edwards. We cannot separate the spirit world from the divine, as everything is interrelated. If, as I believe, all life survives and is interconnected, then why should it appear strange to commune and be in contact with different realms of existence? In all the great wisdom and mystical traditions, this contact with other realms has been mentioned, and has at various times throughout history to the present day been practiced. In some traditions, people who walk this earth have come to be revered as saints, gods or goddesses, and there are accounts of communication with these people in non-physical after-death states. We also need to consider how throughout the ages, ancestor worship has been intrinsically bound up with many traditions even to this day. How there are accounts about those that have been described as angelic beings communicating with various people, and how some have prayed to different individuals such as saints, as they are seen as intercessors before God, who will act on people's behalf. There are also shamans and oracles who are consulted in various traditions, and many renowned mystics have displayed mediumistic types of abilities. It seems to me that there has always existed in humankind's psyche the belief in non-physical realms of existence. Early indigenous people and shamans were the first humans to connect with a spirit world permeating nature, and to communicate with their departed ancestors. Others have looked towards the more transcendent areas of spirituality. Although there are some who have never completely separated themselves from some of the early indigenous beliefs and practices, there are some who have, which has led to an unhealthy separation between nature and the spirit. All areas need to be included in the search for the one ultimate reality that expresses itself in and through all. If we accept that life is eternal and there are other realms of existence intertwined with our physical world, then it must surely be a natural step in our evolution to be able to communicate with these other realms and with those who are living on. We need to recognize that there are different ways in which to approach the many-faceted dimensions of spirituality, and be open to numerous areas that can lead us to healthier states of spiritual being, and embrace the allness of what eternal life is about. Appendix 2. Conversation with Glyn Edwards on spirituality. Santoshan. Can you summarize what spirituality means to you, as it can mean different things to different people? On the one hand, some teachers and writers think of spiritual realms of development as being about mystical union or deep states of meditation. On the other hand, if we are using the word to describe anyone who has a natural sense of goodness about them and about wholesome unfoldment and actions in daily life, we are obviously using the word in a much broader way. Glyn Edwards. Yes, it can be used to mean different things. For me, it is about an embracing of all people, life and nature, to truly see and value the good in all traditions and in different forms of wisdom. It is bound up with realizing that the same Supreme Spirit exists in all, that the activity of the psychic, mediumistic, and miraculous, and the phenomena which come from these, must never restrict the potential for spiritual awareness, and a recognition of equality, or restrict practices of kindness, natural goodness, and compassionate actions. How can we judge that a carpenter or stonemason may not just through his or her work develop profound spiritual qualities, and from this have great influence on others who know him or her and his or her work. Additionally, are cathedrals and temples not built by such people whose names we rarely know? Who are we to say that an agnostic is not a spiritual person? Or are we seeking to impose a set system of belief that excludes certain people because they do not hold the same views and practices as we do? Let us realize that spirituality is more than just meditation practices, rituals, beliefs, and personal experiences. It encompasses the allness of life. Neither is it a truth that only a few possess or a philosophy which makes us stand coldly separate from life. Because some have gifts such as insight into other worlds that are seen to connect with ours, or have the ability to heal, we should not believe these things set them apart from others, or indicate they are more advanced or important than anyone else. Everyone has within them the potential for the same divine qualities, which can be brought to the surface at any point in their lives. Sometimes we may be unaware that we are entertaining angels, meaning anyone who displays natural goodness, as the New Testament passage reminds us, and is one of many reasons why we need to consider showing kindness to strangers, such as when someone listens to our troubles and truly empathizes with us. Is this not as valid a spiritual act as any that we can think of? True and spontaneous, selfless acts of kindness and compassion are really the core of spirituality. It is time that all of us, no matter what tradition or none, took a step back and reviewed what is meant by spirituality. Although mediumistic awareness can be seen as a natural part of our being, just as breathing and kindness are, it is only a facet of the whole. Let us apply the principles that we may term as higher living. This is not about seeing ourselves as more advanced than others, or separate or aloof from everyday life, but manifesting our greatest gifts and recognizing there is goodness in all people, including ourselves. Even though our human nature can get in the way of displaying it at times, as the symbol of yin and yang reminds us with the white spot in the black and the black in the white, reminding us that no person is entirely perfect, as equally as there is no one who is entirely bad. We need to cultivate an understanding and a state of being that accepts and loves others and ourselves, and realize that our true nature is endeavoring to help us to awaken to the reality of what spirituality is and how to live deeply and skillfully by it in every moment. In looking into ourselves for the greatest gifts we possess, we discover the gifts of wisdom and self-knowledge that are the gateways to freedom, true peace, and enlightenment. Such things help us to find unity in diversity and the compassionate spirit in all. Thank you, Glyn, for being so open and sharing your thoughts, feelings, and personal experiences over these 2 sessions.